What emotions come to mind when you think of rules or boundaries? Like, what words do you think of when you picture a fence or maybe a gate? Are they negative or positive? Do you think of safety and security and all the fun backyard hangouts and pickup games you play? Or do you think of like a prison yard where you're locked in and confined? What we're going to talk about today is how Jesus actually called himself a gate. What did he mean? Let's dive in and find out why. Well, what's up, Bible nerds? This week we are continuing in our series, Who is Jesus? By looking at the next I am statement he makes in the Gospel of John. And this one is pretty interesting because of who Jesus is talking to and what it is he says about himself. In John 10:7, Jesus plainly says, I am the gate for the sheep. Okay, Jesus, interesting comparison, a completely inanimate object. What are you trying to say? Well, let's back up for some context because when we read the Bible, we remember that Jesus is king and context is everything. So let's start in John 10:1. It says, very truly I tell you, Pharisees, anyone who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in by some other way, is a thief and a robber. Okay, let's pause and answer some questions. Who's talking? The answer is Jesus. And who is he talking to? He's talking to this group of religious leaders called the Pharisees. The same Pharisees that Jesus later says this about. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces, and you yourselves do not enter, nor will you let those enter who are trying to. Keep that in mind. It's important, and it's really intense. So let's keep going in John 10. Verse 2 says, the one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. They will never follow a stranger. In fact, they'll run away from him because they do not recognize a stranger's voice. Jesus used this figure of speech, but the Pharisees did not understand what he was telling them. So what is Jesus saying? There are two kinds of shepherds. Ones who drive the sheep from behind and ones who lead the sheep from ahead. What Jesus is saying to the Pharisees is what kind of shepherd or leader he is and what kind they were meant to be. But they didn't understand the lesson. So Jesus gets even more clear in verse 7. He says, therefore, Jesus said again, very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who have come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep have not listened to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy, but I've come that they may have life and have it to the full. There it is. Did you catch it? Our I am statement. Jesus said, I am the gate for the sheep. So not only is Jesus showing us and the Pharisees what kind of shepherd he is and what kind they were meant to be, he's saying that their failure to be the right kind of shepherds has led to destruction instead of salvation. And if you look at the biblical story, this is sadly very true. See, God had called the priests and the scribes, the keepers of God's law, to watch over the people of Israel, to help them remember the God who saved them from slavery in Egypt, to help them know what he had said in the past through people like Moses, to help them keep their special covenant relationship with God. But that is not what happened. So God, through prophets like Ezekiel, described what actually happened like this. He said, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy and say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Woe to you, shepherds of Israel, who only take care of yourselves. Should not shepherds take care of the flock? You eat the curds, clothe yourselves with the wool, and slaughter the choice animals, but you do not take care of the flock. You have not strengthened the weak, or healed the sick, or bound up the injured. You have not brought back the strays, or searched for the lost. You have ruled them harshly and brutally. Wow. Only caring for themselves, ruling harshly and brutally, not strengthening the weak or healing the sick, not seeking and searching for the lost. Let's let that sink in for a second. These are the kind of leaders the Pharisees were supposed to be, ones who actually did seek and search for the lost, ones who did heal and bind up the brokenhearted. Who does that actually sound like, though? Who did heal the sick? Who came close to the brokenhearted? Who came to seek and save the lost? Right, it was Jesus. And what Jesus wants these Pharisees to see is that the way they were treating people looked a lot more like the thieves and the robbers than it did like good shepherds. And Jesus just wasn't okay with it. So he came to be a gate for the sheep, to rescue his people and to keep them safe, to bring them out from the oppression and deception that they were experiencing and into real freedom. Let's review again what Jesus said in verse 9 and 10. He said, I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved or kept safe. They'll come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. But I've come that they may have life and have it to the full. See, what the religious leaders had made inaccessible, Jesus came to make accessible. Because the Pharisees had set up the law and the sacrificial system like a barrier. They slammed the door to the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. But Jesus came to be the door, to fling wide the entryway to the kingdom of heaven again. And that is really good news. Through Jesus, the gate, God's rule and reign is coming on earth as it is in heaven, and everyone is invited in. So what do? What does this mean for us? Well, to receive what Jesus has always wanted to give us, that life and life to the full, life in the kingdom of heaven. We listen to Jesus and we follow him. Why are those things different? Because I think we all know we can listen and not actually follow. Like, I can hear you say my name, but I might not come. I could hear my filmmaker right now tell me to cut, but I could just choose to not stop talking. The thing that bridges the gap between listening and following, between hearing and doing, is trust. Do I have confidence in the one speaking to me and that what they want is actually what's best for me? So my challenge to you is to grow your faith in Jesus this week by listening to what he says and following his voice. And when you do, I believe that you will see you can trust the kind of shepherd that he is, and that what he wants to give you is access to life and life to the full. What he wants to protect you from is being lost, stolen, or destroyed. What I need you to know is that he loves you so much, and he is inviting you to trust him. So with that being said, keep on reading your Bibles and stay nerdy.